thrilling and scary experiences in life. And sometimes we even repeat, as if we can't get enough of that. Kind of a little crazy there. Shouldn't we be looking for more relaxing and slow experiences to escape the routine and stress of everyday life? Nah, I don't think so. Amusement parks can be extreme, but they surely do put a smile on our faces. And the more thrilling a ride becomes, the more we're gonna enjoy it. Today we're gonna be looking at the 10 most insane amusement rides around the world. We'll be looking at roller coasters and water park rides that have given us some of the most exciting and at times life-changing rides ever. Watch out because some of them push some boundaries, to the point that some of them had to close down for good. Can you imagine the reason? Well, you're about to find out. Number 10. The Sky Screamer. The name of this ride speaks for itself. The Sky Screamer is technically that. A ride that will take you up to the sky and make you scream at the top of your lungs. If you want to challenge your fear of heights, then this is a ride for you. But if being at 400 feet above the ground makes you anxious, then you're gonna want to stay away from this. You can find this ride in 2 famous parks in the States. First, there's the Texas Sky Screamer at Six Flags over Texas, and then there is the New England Sky Screamer at the Six Flags Park in Massachusetts. Both are tall, and they both hold the Guinness World Record as the tallest swing carousel rides in the world. Now, I know what you're thinking. Carousel swing rides are not really thrilling, but that's only if you stay close to the ground. Trust me, when you're 400 feet high spinning at 35 miles per hour on a skimpy chair, you're gonna know that this ride is not for the faint of heart. Number 9. Giant Canyon Swing. Speaking of swings, there's a more extreme ride, and you can find it at the Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. This is a pendulum ride, and it can move up to 4 passengers back and forth in what seems to be the longest and most intense swing ride ever. If you were one of those kids who loved going on swings, hoping to one day lift yourself high above the ground, then this is the ride for you. At some point, you could be swinging at a speed of 50 miles per hour, while challenging the laws of physics as your ride sets itself into an almost vertical position. And I know you've probably seen rides like this one, but I doubt any of them is in a place like Colorado. This canyon swing is right at the edge of a cliff, and it swings out 1,300 feet above the famous Colorado River into a canyon, which honestly only adds to the thrill of it. Number 8. Insanity. Insanity is described as a mind-bending experience. And why is that? Well, just look at it. It makes its passengers spin while being in their vehicles at the tip of this ride that looks like a claw. And to make things more interesting and thrilling, this ride is not necessarily in an amusement park. Instead, it's at the top of one of the craziest high buildings in Las Vegas, the Stratosphere Tower, which is almost 900 feet tall, which is roughly the size of a 60-story building. But as the ride swings away from the tower, the riders can experience views from a 90-story building perspective. So if you want to have an experience in Las Vegas that's different to the casinos, this might be a good choice. Just keep in mind that you'll be stepping into one of the tallest rides in the world, so make sure you can handle that one. Number 7. Drop of Doom. Oh man, who would want to step into something that's called the Drop of Doom? Well, actually, I can imagine that a lot of us would like to give it a try, even if it implies that we will literally be dropped into one of the scariest moments of our lives. The Drop of Doom is a ride that you can find in 2 different parks in the States. There's one at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, and there's one at Six Flags Magic Mountain in California. Oh, by the way, the one in California is called Lex Luthor Drop of Doom. And I can totally see how adding the name of a famous villain reinforces the idea that things in this ride can be unpredictable and even risky. These rides are attached to other rides that are tall, so while some people are experiencing the fastest ride of their lives at Superman Escape from Krypton, you'll begin to ascend to 400 feet high above the ground before being dropped back down at 90 miles per hour. Are you down for the challenge? Number 6. Slingshot. You can find the slingshots in lots of amusement parks around the world, and you can easily identify it as soon as you see people screaming for their lives as they're launched and suspended into mid-air while holding onto thin cables. It definitely looks and feels like a slingshot. The largest one in the world is in Orlando, Florida, at a park called Magical Midway. This one soars up to 400 meters above ground at a speed of 90 miles per hour, which really sounds like a thrilling experience. Now, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but there is an interesting and sad fact I must point out about this kind of ride. A few years ago, a woman broke her leg while riding the slingshot at Luna Park in France. One of the cables snapped, which made the vehicle lose control. This caused the injury, and the poor woman and her companion had to wait for an hour before being rescued by firefighters. Fortunately, though, no lives were lost, but this kind of incident shows you how crazy things can get while riding the slingshot. Number 5. The Smiler. Is it supposed to make us smile? Because I don't see anything about this ride that would make me smile. Instead, I'd probably scream, and some of you might even cry as you make it through the ride with the most inversions in the world. That's right. The Smiler doesn't have 1, 2, or 3 inversions like conventional rides do, but instead, this one has 14, which means that you'll be put upside down more than 10 times while riding on it. It's not as tall or fast as other rides, but all those inversions are more than enough to make for an intense amusement park experience. And to make things even more interesting, the ride allows up to 5 trains to run at the same time, which means you can see 1,200 different people get on this ride within an hour time frame. In 2015, a group of riders collided with an empty train, which caused some injuries and definitely didn't make anyone smile. Instead, there were tons of lawsuits that turned into apologies, improvements, and promises to never let that happen again. This roller coaster is in Alton Towers, UK, so make sure you check that out someday and see if you can put a smile while you're there. Number 4. X2. Have you noticed a common theme on this list? Well, any list that includes extreme and insane amusement park rides is likely to include more than just one entry that's a part of a Six Flags park. So far, we've seen the Skyscreamer and the Drop of Doom, which are both in different Six Flags parks around the US. Now, let me introduce you to another crazy ride. It's called the X2, and this one is at Six Flags Magic Mountain. The ride is supposed to be a multi-sensorial experience, as there will be loud music, sound effects, and even fire being blown at you while you go on all the drives, twists, and loops that the ride has to offer. It's like going on a 4-dimensional ride in which you'll feel transported to another world for only a few minutes. Although, honestly, it might feel like an eternity. Number 3. Action Park's Cannonball Loop. Alright, Action Park doesn't exist anymore, but it was worth adding to the list since it was home to the Cannonball Loop, one of the scariest and most known rides in this controversial park. The ride was first introduced to the public towards the end of the 80s. However, not many people got to experience the thrills of it, and it was for a good reason. There were rumors that a child got stuck at the top of the ride, and other people were saying that test dummies came out of the ride dismembered. Which is pretty horrifying, actually, knowing that they could have been an actual human there. However, the most shocking thing about this ride was the fact that a lot of the staff at Action Park were used as human guinea pigs to test this looping water slide. Sure, many staff enjoyed being able to test things before anyone else, but it must not be that exciting when you're testing a ride that could eventually end your life. Eventually, the looping water slide, as well as the other crazy rides at Action Park, had to close, and now they just exist as the memory of what a crazy water park can look like. Only to live on, narrated by a handsome man who may or may not work for an amazing Top 10 5 channel. Wink, wink, nudge, touch. Now it's time for the day's best pick. Can you imagine what it would be like to be suspended